I nominate Michael Long as chair.
Any other nominations? Third and final time, any further nominations?
You accept? I accept.
All right, I declare Michael as chair for tonight's meeting.
Turn it over to me, just like that. Call this meeting to order. And adoption of the agenda. Adoption of the agenda. Any changes, any omissions, any? Oh, no? Yep. Okay. I move the adoption of the agenda as printed. All those in favor? Carried. We have 2 scheduled delegations and we have 1 public delegation coming up this evening. So first up is Gordon Elric from the Regional Traffic Consultant. Come on up. Introduce yourself to everybody, and there's a little button there on your microphone that you can press in and do all that cool stuff.
Okay. My name is Gordon Elric. I'm a regional traffic safety consultant for the Office of Traffic Safety. The Office of Traffic Safety is a branch of Alberta Transportation, and there's 14 of us consultants across the province that have a contract with Alberta Transportation, basically to assist them with rolling out the traffic safety plan, the Alberta Traffic Safety Plan. And with the traffic safety plan, what we do is we take a look at what's causing collisions and fatalities on our roads. And we have about 144,000 collisions every year, which is quite substantial. And not only the number of deaths, but the cost of those collisions. So we come up with projects and programs to assist communities with dealing with those collisions and the costs and the issues that the collisions bring up. One of the things that we do to do that is we develop traffic safety coalitions. And just in the package here that I've provided behind the offer letter, it shows a little bit of information on the traffic safety coalitions that we have across the province. We've got about 60 coalitions across the province right now in different areas. I'm based out of Grand Prairie. We've got one in Grand Prairie. We're currently developing one in Beaver Lodge, and as well as High Prairie here. And then we're going to be taking a look at places like Valley View and Spirit River after that. And what the coalitions consist of is basically anybody in the communities that's interested, has a concern with traffic safety, about traffic safety in the area, and is interested in coming up with some programs and to basically to curb that. And we're finding that a lot of the time people just aren't aware of what the legislation is. Like, for example, there's 4 main areas that are causing collisions and fatalities on our roads. That's impaired driving, which I don't think really shocks anybody. Distracted driving over the last few years has gotten just as dangerous as impaired, especially with the texting and driving. And then we have intersection safety and speeding. So we've developed quite a few different types of projects and programs around educating people around those areas. And there's other things too. When we form these committees, I should say, out in the outlying areas, they may have different priorities. So what I do is I bring a copy of the traffic safety plan, a copy of the stats as far as what's causing collisions and fatalities, as far as in the province, as well as regionally. We have the regional stats also, and they pretty well line up. You know, if impaired driving is a concern in Lethbridge, it's a concern in High Prairie. It's the same concern in Edmonton. It's just one of those things, one of those societal things. So we deal with those types of things. We review that information. We also get a copy of what's going on in specific areas. We have a few statisticians in our office in Edmonton, and I asked for a copy of what's going on with as far as what the detachments are detecting in the outlying areas. So you'll see further on in documents in the back here the actual stats for High Prairie area as far as collisions, for example. So it kind of gives you a bit of an idea, you know, on what the RCMP in your area are detecting. You're probably quite familiar with the stats regardless. So we have that to our availability too. as far as passing that on to our coalition. We've held a first meeting here last week, and we have already got a fairly good turnout. We got about 9 or 10 members that are going to be attending. And some of the agencies locally here is, for example, Alberta Brain Injury. I've been working with Michelle Hill for a few years, and we've been doing some different projects, mostly with kids on quad safety, bicycle safety, helmet safety, and whatnot, and doing some joint presentations on the importance of helmets. So Michelle, we thought would be a good fit there. Colette Elko, I've been working with Colette quite a bit too over the last few years, involved with a bunch of these different traffic safety programs and projects, and as well as the party program in town here. And then, of course, Ken and Harry Davis from the Transportation Director, Ken Matthews. I just met with Ken this afternoon, along with the CAO, and they're quite interested in getting involved. Probably not themselves, but they'll probably have a couple of people that they'll delegate to get involved with the committees, people that are a little more hands-on. But they're quite interested and supportive of the coalition in general. And then Michael Boisdron here, the sergeant that has just retired and gone over to the school division, he'll be involved also. I had met also this afternoon with the acting staff sergeant in High Prairie here. And as it turned out, him and I worked together 20 years ago when I was involved with commercial vehicle enforcement in Whiteport. So we've got that history as far as working together with enforcement initiatives. And he's quite interested also, and whether if it be himself or one of his corporals to be involved with the committee here. The other things that we're taking a look at when we're talking with the REEV, saying, well, what are some of the local issues in the outlying areas? And there's things like on-road farm safety. You know, we've got a project and a program that involves bringing across the information, providing people with what the legislation is, you know, especially with the farmers, and not only the farmers, but people that are meeting a combine or a swather on the road, you know, some of the hazards and some of the legislation around that. So we've got a program around that. We provide quite a bit of information on off-highway vehicle safety. There's one document towards the back of the package here that provides information on that as far as off-highway vehicles and the number of collisions and casualties and fatalities per year. As you can see, that's going up substantially every year as far as off-highway vehicle. There's different things that the ministry is looking at right now with off-highway vehicles. Helmets aren't mandatory, and I've always found it kind of interesting that on a bicycle you have to wear a helmet up to 18, but not on an off-highway vehicle on public land. So it's something that ministry is looking at, but that could be another example that this coalition might want to take a look at for education. When we get together in some of the other areas, I'll give you an example. Like, for example, we have a traffic safety calendar, and it's a traffic safety calendar of events. And so each month we have a specific focus. So in August and December, our focus is impaired driving, because those are the two high months. Around August, you've got a couple of long weekends. You've got the summer months. You've got people outside more, and then of course Christmas time and Christmas holidays around December. So we start with different campaigns in those areas. So we start out the beginning of the month is we compile an article at the beginning of each month. We send it on our social media sites, the local media, newspaper, radios, and whatnot. And we find that all the local media in the areas we've been working are very supportive of getting this messaging out, so they help us with that. And then we allocate somebody from the committee to be spokesperson, and in case the media wants to do any interviews on that specific topic. So we start each month out with that type of activity, and then we decide if we want to do something in addition. Like, for example, there's the Cantequin check stops you've probably heard of. And then the other, last August in Grand Prairie, we had just an information check stop on 100th Street there for impaired driving. So we got about 20 people together from different agencies. Don't have to be all uniformed people in different agencies. And we set up a check stop and hand out a bunch of pamphlets and flyers on that type of issue as far as the impaired driving. And there again, like I say, the media is involved and whatnot. So it kind of maximizes our opportunity to get the messaging across, on things like impaired driving. We've done the same on intersection safety as well as distracted driving. And commercial vehicle enforcement is another one. June is Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Awareness Month. So if there's any concerns in the area about that, we could set something up there. So I guess when it comes right down to it, by mixing with what the stats we have with the traffic safety plan and the regional stats, we kind of mix that in with what the local concerns are. So what are the main concerns in regards to traffic safety in your area, both in town and outlying areas. And then we'll have a priority planning exercise, which is our next meeting on May the 4th is our next meeting. We're going to have a priority planning exercise, and we'll just go around the table with all of this information and say, okay, what do we want to do? What kind of project or program do we want to set up, each month? Sometimes there might be a skip, but for the most part, as far as not having one each month, but for the most part, we usually have some type of project or program. And so that's kind of where we're at as far as setting one up in High Prairie here. Appreciate the opportunity to just kind of review what we are doing and why we're doing it, and invite anybody from the town council or town to participate. Officer Bloom is involved with it. I've worked with Ellen for a few years also with a lot of projects, so I think he'll do an excellent job as representing the town in that area. Was kind of wanted to have a bit of a chat and just to kind of fill you in a little bit on not only the Office of Traffic Safety and the traffic safety plan, but on how, when we roll that out, what it looks like in the communities. And for the most part, it's these traffic safety coalitions. Some of the other work that I've been doing in the area, in addition to being involved with the party program, is going into the schools and talking to the teenagers about drinking and driving and distracted driving. And so we have pretty good conversations around that. I like to talk with the teenagers just as they're starting to get their driver's license, so at least they've got that information. And one of the examples is if you choose to drink and drive and get impaired, so what's that look like for the rest of your life for employment and those types of things. And then we get into, cost of injury or death and some different things, what it look like after that. So we get right down to kind of the basics with it, we don't pull any punches at all. And the teenagers are actually quite receptive and pretty interactive when we talk about it. I was in the school the other day, and it's a little bit
If you could coordinate, if you just
Reset your button on your,
okay. Yeah.
that way everybody behind can hear.
Sure, yeah. It's kind of interesting when going in to talk with the teenager, especially on things like distracted driving, because we know that about 90% of teenagers that are driving text and drive. And it's probably not that much different with older age groups also. But when we have that conversation and we talk about the collisions and the fatalities and the different things that can happen with the distracted driving, such as you're 23 times more apt to get involved in a collision if you text and drive. And if you text and drive, you're creating the same danger as if you had 4 beer and drive. So then it kind of brings a little different perspective to them. They start thinking about it, but not all of them. There's a few of them. There's one young gal that I was chatting with, and she'd mentioned that she'd been involved in 2 collisions due to texting. One that was her fault, and the other one was somebody else's fault, and she wasn't going to change her behavior. So we're not going to always get through to everybody, but I guess by doing these presentations and by doing these types of check stops and getting information out through media and whatnot, at least we give the opportunity to inform people and to let them know what the legislation and what the fines are. Some of the fines are very substantial now, what the fines are and what the demerit points mean to employability and those types of things. And I think we're having some luck with getting reductions. As far as over the last 5 years, we've had a reduction in collisions in Alberta by about 15%. It's gone back up somewhat over the last couple of years, but we have seen quite a reduction. One of the big reductions we've seen actually is impaired driving in Alberta. In that sense, they basically increased the sanctions for the 0.05 to the 0.08, the provincial legislation. So we've seen reductions of about 20% of impaired driving, because now if you have a few beer and you get caught, even though you're not over 0.08, your vehicle is being towed and seized and put in the compound. So that's pretty powerful when we talk about that with the high school kids that are driving their parents' vehicles. So those are some of the things that we kind of get involved with also. as far as trying to get the message across to people and to hopefully get them to think twice before they get behind the wheel or before they pick up their cell phone. And I think with a coalition like this, that we've seen a lot of good ideas, especially get some of the local concerns and some of the ideas, creative ideas that some of the people have to get that message across. And I'm really looking forward to working with the community in town here. I will continue to facilitate. We already have a couple of chair people that will be chairing the committee, but I'll continue to facilitate and be involved with the projects and provide information to the coalition.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions? Councillor Dinaco.
So the last agenda we had received this information about this coalition and stuff, and that's why we asked you, because we weren't sure where this all came from and where it stemmed from and that kind of stuff. So thank you for coming and clearing that up. I'm not sure what has been brought up as far as traffic concerns, but do you help municipalities, I guess, lobby government for changes to different things in their town, like traffic lights, crosswalks, those kinds of things, highway parking, or is that not in what you do?
I wouldn't say that I lobby. I provide information on procedures and how to do these things, and through the contact and that sort of, and I can certainly be of assistance. Mostly what I do is
Mostly what I do is I provide information, and then the coalition decides what they want to do with the information. Yeah.
I found it interesting you just mentioned the coalition on that. Have any of your other groups used your information to lobby for those changes that Councillor Dinaco was talking about?
I've been in contact with a few groups, and speed, especially in the outlying area, speed just seems to be a huge concern. You know, there's a couple of areas where you have schools on primary highways and secondary highways, so speed seems to be a major concern. So then they take a look at that information, and what I do is I will request from our office any of the collisions at a specific intersection where there's a speed problem or a school zone or a playground zone or whatever the case may be. So they take that information and then determine whether if they want to go further with it. Some of the things that we've done is those electronic signs that measures your speed and identifies what your actual speed is are quite effective. We've done that in some areas. But we've also found with that after a while, it's like a lot of the other signs, after a few months, people just kind of get complacent again. So then they use the electronic signs, the mobile signs, and put them in different locations. So you kind of get different areas there. We have done things like getting street lights put up at intersections. You know, when I was involved with the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Branch, I assisted with some of the MLA advisory committees with rural MLAs, and things like that were brought up. You know, it's a dangerous intersection. It's dark, it's busy, there's collisions, and through letters to the minister and whatnot, you know, there's some street lights were put up at different intersections. So yeah, there's especially if it's not too big of a budgetary issue, you know, there's good opportunities, you know, especially with Alberta Transportation, to be able to not only identify it, but to get it on their radar.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And next up, we need to. Yep. Next up, we have Christopher Robley with the Community Futures.
Everyone,
How you doing?
good. Good. I gotta get used to this. Oh, it's on. There you go. So I'm Christopher Robley from Community Futures. I've seen some of you around, and I'm sure you've seen the redhead running around town too. I'm the general manager for Community Futures. I've been the general manager for Community Futures for the last year. Before that, I worked for the province. Before that, I worked for the federal government. Before that, I worked for the military. So I know I look young, but I've been around the block when it comes to municipal government, and I'm educated in that field, and so on and so forth. So kind of how I'll start today is, I've already told you who I am. I'm going to talk a little bit about our organization. What I'm looking for from you today is just an expression of interest. Community Futures is not an organization that does, even though we're not for profit, we don't come and say we need operational funding. Instead, what we'll do is we'll come and say, here's a project that we're interested in working on with you and a couple other partners. Would you be interested? So today I'm just looking for an expression of interest. The reason for that is I don't want to spend the next, sorry, I'm not feeling good, the next 30 days developing a formal bid or a formal partnership bid to you guys, just for you to have to say, we weren't interested in it to begin with. So this is just much easier all around for everybody that's involved, right? So Community Futures, do you guys know what Community Futures is at all?
Enlighten us.
Okay, great. So Community Futures is what's called a Part 9 company. A Part 9 company meaning that we have aspects of our business that's on the corporation side, so we're a private company, and aspects of our business that's on the not-for-profit side of business, right? So we're funded each year from the federal government. We hold a continuing contract, renewable every year. We've held it since the 1980s. To fund our operations and anything of and above and beyond. We do professional consulting, we do all kinds of other stuff, right? So right now, if we look at our not-for-profit side or our revenue generating side, Community Futures has been successful on feasibility studies, some strat planning for local not-for-profits as well as the school board. We've been successful on a census bid for another municipal government. We've also been successful on a grant contract bid and a grant strategy, and that's in the last year. So we do a lot of professional development, professional strategies for municipalities, for towns, that kind of stuff, right? And I'm a big believer in using professional organizations that are local to do the work that's local, right? Instead of contracting someone out that's out of Edmonton, I personally believe, anyways, that we as a community should be contracting those people that live here and work here, because that money stays here and is spent on hiring people here, right? On our corporate side, Community Futures in the 1980s was given about $1 million to lend. So we do lending. Since then, to date, if you came in for a loan, I have about $6.5 million of liquid funds that I could invest, right? Currently, we have 52 clients locally that are businesses that we did startups for, that we're the sole entity that helped them get started. Oftentimes it ranges anywhere between $150,000 to $250,000, and that's kind of our range. We focus on small to medium enterprises, right? Any questions about Community Futures? And that's a really quick shotgun approach to what we do. You can get a hold of me and we can sit down and have a conversation more about what's involved in this and what's involved in that. But
Are you involved with the chamber?
I am. So I'm an executive on the High Prairie Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a sitting member for the Slave Lake Chamber of Commerce. Part of this interest request, right, is going to be partnering with the Slave Lake Chamber of Commerce to one, give them experience on how to do professional consulting, right, as well as a little bit of extra revenue, so that it's not a handout. So I am very familiar with them, and I've been part of the Chamber of Commerce here for the last 3 years, or I don't know, since I moved here, right, which is a while ago. And I'm a local, like I live here, I work here, the whole works.
In looking at services provided, some of the services that you provide, municipalities up-to-date list of basic revenues in their service area, and it seems somewhat to me that it's a duplication of services. It seems similar to the LSLEA or PREDA, similar.
Yeah.
Is it similar stuff?
So the LSLEA and PREDAs are economic development driven, right? So the projects they work on are feasibility studies would be one of them, right? But they wouldn't do, for example, a feasibility assessment of one of your departments. So to see whether or not you're spending your money properly internally. And that would be an external look at it, right, instead of an internal look. They wouldn't do things like business strategies to start to start a subsidiary of the town, which is one of the ones we've done. Like, they don't do any of that kind of work. Alice Elliott does good work, Prita does good work, right? This is just another tool in the toolbox, right? And when, I know as counselors, when you're looking to put out bids or you're looking to accept bids, one of the things that always goes through your mind is to being fair and equitable, right? And that this is just so that you know that we're one of the people that are always interested in this kind of stuff.
Everybody's going through,
Yeah.
just read through it, sorry.
No, and I'll talk about the business visitation program while you guys are going. So the reason I'm here today is specifically for the business visitation program. I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel, so this has been stolen. This is a functioning program that's being run in Grand Prairie, it's being run in Jasper, it's being run in Edson, and it's in partnerships with, sometimes the towns just do them themselves, sometimes the towns and the MDs partner together, and I'm on delegation for the Big Lakes, County of Big Lakes. They changed their name, right? I'm still getting used to it. County of Big Lakes tomorrow for the exact same thing. The business visitation program, what it is specifically, you contract Community Futures to make face-to-face visits with the businesses in your area. And that's just not storefront business, right? Because as we know, there's storefront and then there's everybody else that's out there, which is the other 60 to 75% of business that comes to the town, right? So that's everybody. From storefront to I run a business in my basement. We as the contracted entity, so us and the chamber, the Highbury Chamber of Commerce, which I've spoken to and they are interested, would do visits over either a 6-month or a year period, depending on your scope and how much you want to spend. It would be questions that you guys want answered, as well as just normal quantitative questions. So how many people work there? Some of the questions are, how many people work there? Are you expanding? Are you thinking about closing your doors? Are you still making money? Are you seeing a decrease? What's one of your major concerns in town? What could council do to make your life easier? The benefit for councils, the benefit in other areas for council, which has been proven, is that instead of making decisions based upon talking to a few people here and there, you get to make decisions based upon real-time data of what's happening in your business community. We would provide you quarterly reports of the answers to those questions, drawn up, of course, in a professional manner, and as many bells and whistles as you want, right? I'm a big believer in keeping it all simple, right? But this gives you a way to not be comfortable, but to be more confident in changing a bylaw, to be more confident in increasing or decreasing taxes, right? And to have some justification. You know, there's 30% of our business community that says we need better roads down here, and that's what everybody's complaining about. So that's an easier. If there's something to address that's easy for you guys, it's better to know about it than miss it completely, because sometimes roads are not in the budget, right? But maybe something along the lines of providing better access for the business community online is something that would be, and an easy thing to do, honestly, for a town. And if it gets you 10 people off your back in Grand Prairie and Edson, that's worth it to them. So that's, and there's much more to it, but this is just an overview. The average contracting rate is anywhere between $25,000 to $50,000, and that's for a year. That's for a full-time or half-time employee provided by Community Futures that's dedicated to doing this for you and providing the documents and the data. Any questions about it? Other than the million that are probably going through your head, and you need to see the formal pitch, and I understand that totally, yeah. And that's why I'm here, to see if you're interested at all, right? Like, and I know some aren't, and the economy is not as great as it should be, right? And that hurts our clients, that hurts everyone. So I'm okay with a no. I just keep pitching it year after year, so don't worry, you'll see me again over and over and over.
Councilor Gilroy.
I'd be interested, but I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more from our business community first, especially since they're hiring an economic person out there. I believe they're hiring an extra person to do some of that.
County of Big Lakes.
And the chamber. I'd like to actually hear from the chamber, and actually it would be nice to have, I know, but it'd be nice to have Tracy. It's someone other than the person who's presenting it is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To also talk about the business portion of this. and to have the rest of the council involved in it. I think it's very important that the mayor and Councillor Rose and Councillor Panasek are involved in this as well.
Any other discussion?
I think one thing Councillor Gilroy's hit on is we are a quorum of 4 tonight, and so we're in a state of bit of a transition as well. But it would be nice to have as many of the councillors here to discuss it. I think it's a great idea, and with the right sort of massaging, I think we could probably come up with some good ideas and make it cost effective. I like the fact most of us will go from time to time and stop in and see the businesses, you know, and whether it's flowers and things or whomever, and that's one of the roles that we do as a council. It's what we should be doing anyways, and so we hear a lot from the downturn of the economy. We hear a lot of taxation and all the different issues, but it'd be nice to have it all in a consolidated package on factual information,
And
rather
that's what
than-
you guys come up with, right? Like, it's not Community Futures that decides what you want to hear, it's you as a council decide that, or your administration, right? Or a combination of both, and, yeah. It sounds so, and I'm not trying to put you guys on the spot. Oh, there you go.
I'm not trying to put you guys on the spot because I know it's a quorum of 4, but it sounds like there's at least a little bit of interest in it. As long as there's a little bit, I definitely will go forward and work with the Chamber of Commerce. And the next time we meet, it'll be myself and the Chamber of Commerce that'll sit down with a formalized package of what this would look like over a 6 month to a year. We'll do one for each and go from there.
Perfect.
Sounds good? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great, guys, thanks. And at all times, if you ever want to talk about something that's business related, give me a shout. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along and right on schedule as well. Holy smokes. Come on up. You're the next contestant. You can just
Introduce yourself and all that good stuff.
All right. Good evening, Council. My name is Louise Meyer. I'm the Director for Big Lakes Family and Community Services. Hello. Yesterday morning, Mayor Cox was at our FCSS board meeting, and she suggested that I attend your meeting this evening to speak to a letter that is in your package requesting a contribution from High Prairie for 2 upcoming events that are being hosted by Big Lakes Family and Community Services. For those of you that are new,
bear with me for a second. Page 91.
no, that's fine. Just a little bit of background. High Prairie subcontracts to Big Lakes Family and Community Services. They transfer for the service 80% of their provincial transfer, I understand, and hold back 20% for those events and items that they deem to be relevant to FCSS. So upcoming are the Volunteer Appreciation Event for High Prairie, and as well in June, the Seniors Week events. And in the past, we've asked High Prairie for a contribution for volunteer appreciation, and they've contributed anywhere from $800 to $1,500, depending on the expense of the event. Last year they didn't. I just think there was an oversight somewhere along the way. With volunteer appreciation, we are holding the event on April the 11th. What we do is have food and gifts for the nominated volunteers. High Prairie has the opportunity to nominate 50 volunteers. The first 50 to call in to Nancy over at the FCS office in High Prairie will be the volunteers chosen. People who call in give their reason for nominating someone as a volunteer and give their contact information so we can call and invite them. So this event will probably cost about $1,200, and we're asking for a $500 contribution for that. in June, on June 6th and 7th, we will be hosting a seniors event for High Prairie at the Legion. The first day, which is a Monday, the 6th, we do a wellness fair and luncheon for the seniors. The second day is the 7th. We have bingo and a luncheon. And then following that, on the Wednesday, there is a large luncheon in the county somewhere. This year we'll be at the New Triangle Hall. High Prairie also attends that. We have up to 200 people. We provide lunch and a thank you gift for this, what seniors have contributed to the county and the town. And that is quite costly, around $5,000, but we're asking for a $500 contribution to that as well. It's for a total of $1,000 for the two. Are there any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
I do know that March 11th for the volunteer dinner,
It's April 11th.
April 11th.
Yeah. And counselors are invited to attend as guests.
Thank you very, very much.
Okay.
We'll be talking about this obviously coming up in the package.
Okay,
And so,
all right. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Good evening.
And are there any more delegations? Any other delegations? Going 3 times, any other delegations? Seeing none. Protective Services report. Constable Bloom, you're up, sir.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
We're just reporting on January's month this meeting, so nothing out of the ordinary. If you have any questions, just going to highlight a couple things that we started in January, and the one being renewal of dog licenses, which has probably been a hot topic around the community. But I want to thank Officer Thiessen too. She's taken on that challenge of sending out notices and issuing fines.
Need a motion to.
Thank you.
Oh,
Well, we have a motion to accept. Councillor Gilroy.
I'm going to be busy today. I make a motion that council receive the senior peace officer's January 2016 report for information purposes.
There, now you have the floor.
okay, thank you. So,
It happens from time to time.
So, as I explained, we're in the process of working on the dog licensing renewal. And next month's report I'll elaborate more on that. But as of January, we've started the process. So, the other item of bringing to the attention is the unsightly property on 53rd Ave. The process is is started to have the property owner apply for demolition permit. So that's still in an ongoing situation here. So hopefully we can get it rectified within the next month or month and a half before the warmer weather comes. I had an inspector inspect the property based on my observations as to what I thought might be wrong with it, as far as health concerns and safety concerns, because there were a few individuals entering the property, drinking and sleeping and stuff. So that inspector determined that there is mold, and to an extent where it is beyond repair.
Yeah.
So that's where it sits right now. So. Other than that, not much else other than business as usual.
You do a great job, sir, and sir's partner.
Still getting people looking at school zones, driving too fast through the school zones. Distracted driving on cell phones is just as bad as ever. So, again, those types of issues, if you can crack down on them, I'd be a happy guy. But
we presented that bylaw calendar previously.
mhm.
That was drafted in the similar designs as the traffic safety calendar. So we'll be targeting our bylaws, such as traffic safety, pedestrian safety, in correlation with the traffic safety calendar too. So we have pamphlets that we've drafted that we're sending out in the utility bills. So we'll be addressing those issues. So.
I agree with Councillor Lung that you guys are doing a really good job. What struck me in your report was the call for patrols after school requested by E.W. Pratt and Prairie River. I've also heard that they do have, we'll just say, an energetic bunch, just to be polite. But is there any program that you know of that we can actually have go in to the schools to remind them of what it's going to cost them in the future if they are if they continue to fight or bully within that area, because they are getting closer to university age, and they should know a lot better than the younger ones.
We can, on the request of the school, to go in and give a brief overview of the fighting and intimidation bylaw, which will indicate what the penalties are and what the bylaw means to the students and the teenagers wanting to fight. So.
Yeah, I would appreciate if you at least could take a few minutes and talk to the High Prairie safety person for the school system, Michael, and the school admin, and see if something could be worked out, as I've heard a number of people concerned about that, and they don't want it to escalate. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think too, that's probably something that the coalition would be able to sit down in one of their meetings, since Michael's there as well and everybody else is there, to be able to discuss it as and highlight it as a concern, and then it could be a coordinated approach with the schools and peace officers and the coalition itself. I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I'm assuming that that's one of the roles that you would play as well, and so it has an opportunity there. Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
And all those in favor to receive the report for information? Mary? Steve?
The council received the fire chief's January and February 2016 report for information.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
As you can see, my report is in front of you. In January, we had a really slow month, which I think I'm the only business in the whole town that likes to be slow. We had one call to a natural gas smell, which we just reverted to Public Works, and they went out there and looked after it for us. A false alarm call to Days Inn, and then a call to an ammonia smell 5 miles west of town, which we went tearing out to, and we could not find any ammonia smell anywhere. So I don't know if somebody was just driving down the road and smelling things, or maybe that ammonia tank did burp and let out a little bit of fumes, and by the time we got there it was dissipated. So. But anyway, that was not anything serious. And then we had a vehicle versus moose incident, and I believe I spoke to you before about this MVC on the Buchanan Hall Road, where the 3 women from Jean d'Or Prairie were lost looking for Slave Lake. So that's January. And February was a little bit busier, but not much. We had 5 calls in town, so alarm calls. We had a structure fire at the mill. The fire was at the energy building. Fortunately, it turned out okay. Everything went well. Monitored alarm at 5104. I guess that's just a house. Lady was making dinner, and the baby was crying, and she burnt her dinner while she was looking after the kid. We had a lift assist requested by EMS, and a structure fire. The structure fire was down by the 4-way stop by the swimming pool, and what it was a person came home after the bar had closed, and he was hungry. He put some ribs in the oven, and in the meantime decided to call it a night and go to sleep. And a little while later, the ribs were black and smoking. And the lady and her daughter upstairs are the ones that noticed the smell. So the daughter woke her mother up, and they called the fire department, and we went down there, and we had to actually break into the house, and the guy was passed out. He wasn't waking up. So it could have been a catastrophe if we wouldn't have got there when we did. So. And we had no calls in the MDF or the county of Big Lakes, and 1 motor vehicle call. It was a truck rollover at Range Road 163 and Township Road 741. That's the one I'm sure everybody's heard about it now, with Mr. Dreffs, where he went over the riverbank and ended up down in the river. And that's it for. We're gonna try starting to go out to the training facility. I think the snow has gone down enough now that we can probably get out there and start utilizing our training facility again for training. Family Day weekend, we hosted a FCSS and High Prairie Fire Department got together and hosted a pancake breakfast, which was well received. We had 161 people, I think, attend. So it went well. We've been on a real recruitment drive the last few weeks, and it's working. As of last night, we had 31 members, and I received 1 more application today, and I hear through the grapevine that I've got 2 more coming in. And we've also got the 3 guys from ESRD that are coming back at the end of March to begin their summer firefighting with ESRD, and they're coming back, so they'll be with us for the summer. So we'll be back to our 36 people, which has been a long time since we've had that many. It's great. The only unfortunate thing is we have to spend a few months training all these new guys that just got on. So we'll have 15 new guys that have no training whatsoever. So it's going to be a busy month. We got to get that done before the grass fires start going. So. And we got a booth in the gun show. We were going to promote our recruitment campaign, but I guess we'll still go ahead with it. And now that we have a full roster, I don't know if we really need any more members, but we'll put them on the waiting list. And I know we've got 2 guys that are moving. One guy's moving to New Brunswick, and one guy's moving to Ontario this summer, so we'll be losing 2. And I mean, we're always changing over. So. And on February 28th, the fire department rented the pool for an hour, and we had a family swim with all the wives and kids, and it went over really well. And I was just wondering if there's any way, I know I talked to Linda about it before, and if we could just get some help lobbying the rec board to maybe donating 1, 2, 3, 4 swims a year to the volunteers. I mean, it would be a great recruitment thing and a great retention thing for the volunteers. I mean, they do go out of their way to, they risk their lives, they leave their families and everything to do things for the people of the town, and it would be just a way to show your appreciation, if there's any way possible to convince the rec board.
So I'm sure we're gonna have, you're looking for individual passes for the volunteer firemen, or you want?
Not individual passes, just
the same kind of program you've done with the day.
yeah, like last weekend we were at the pool for an hour, and we just invite the whole, we had the pool reserved for the fire department, and it was like husbands, wives, kids, babies, whatever, they were all there and had a great time. So
Councillor Gilroy, Councillor Danaka.
No, I had this circled. I was going to ask you about that swim. Just kind of curious. You said you had it for 1 hour only.
yeah,
On the 28th, which was a Sunday, I believe.
yeah.
Just kind of curious. What was the rent for it? Like, what was the cost to you guys as a?
200 and I'm not exactly sure. $260 or $280.
And that included party room and just relaxation of the entire facility, right?
Party room wasn't used. It was just everybody was in the water. So.
Okay.
And we had it from 5:45 to 6:45 in the evening.
I was going to make the suggestion that you have the rec board talk with the manager of the pool and work something out, because it's a really good idea.
If we could do that, that would be greatly appreciated. So.
We'll see who we talk to.
Thank you.
You bet, Ken. I'll look into it.
And other than that, that's my report.
I think you had brought up the last time you had presented your report about the, because I believe it was at a council meeting that you had brought up with the rec board and getting something worked out, I believe.
It wasn't it was
Because I remember you asking
It was
about
before
that.
Christmas, and Linda said she was going to look into it, and then I haven't heard a word from her.
I'm not sure what happened at the last rec board meeting or whatever. I just want, regarding your recruitment, when you say you have 46 and you can't take any more, is that, like, could you not, even though you're full, you could have, another 2 or 3 that have been trained up to fill positions, or is it just an equipment thing that you don't have enough equipment for everybody?
Right, it's the gear to, the protective equipment these fellows wear. Like well, $6,000 a set. And we have 36, and that's all we have. And
no,
we
I was
also
just
don't have the
curious.
lockers and the pagers and the other stuff to
Okay,
go
nope.
along with it. So what we would do is just, if we get extra recruits, we would just put them on a waiting list, and as people leave, we would take the new ones
Okay,
on.
nope, perfect.
Any other questions?
I like the idea, Ken, of putting them on the waiting list. Would they be allowed to, the ones on the waiting list, would they be allowed to train with you guys? So that you're not starting from rookies again when those other people leave. Would they be allowed to, or do you have to have just 36 to train?
They would be allowed to train. The only thing is the gear, so they wouldn't be able to do any actual firefighting or anything like that because
No, I'm thinking first aid and some of the things that do not require having the gear. with
stuff
you.
like that they could.
Just so they keep
They
up.
could get involved with stuff like that, yeah, so. And one other thing here that Herman just handed me, on April the 9th, we're having a firefighters ball again. It'll be held out at Triangle, and we will be requesting that the mayor or a representative from the town come out and say a few words for us. And we also encourage all councillors, wives, to come out and help us party.
I'll do my best to dance in a small circle again.
Okay.
I know Trish loves when I take her dancing.
Well, it'll be April 9th, so anybody wants tickets, let me know. And it's one of the few fundraisers that we have during the year to try and raise a few dollars. And this year, I think it might be kind of difficult because we just found out the other day that Big Meadow is having a coffee house event for Melanie Mason. So I think a lot of our people that we normally would get at the ball will be going to Melanie's or Melanie's family's coffee thing at Big Meadow Hall. So unfortunately, it's
Can I change it to the following week? Move from the 9th to the next weekend?
next weekend is the gun show. So and all the posters are out and all the tickets are printed, and so I mean that's just life. That's the way it is. Yeah. So,
We'll be there.
appreciate that.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Chief Melnick.
Thank you.
No further questions? That there is, because I'm cutting this one off. Awesome, thank you. And all those in favor for receiving Chief Melnick's report? Opposed, none? Carried unanimously. And then we're on to 3A. And regular meeting of council minutes, February 23rd, 8 of your council.
The council approved the minutes from the February 23rd, 2016 regular meeting of council as presented.
Discussions? Commissions, anything, corrections? Seeing none. Earth shattering?
No, but there's a couple of, a couple spelling errors I think we got changed.
Fire away.
Basically, I'll save the motion if we give our opportunity to recheck, because I know there was a couple of small errors, such as on page 32, where it says that we had a meeting on May 20th, 2015, when it was actually a different one. So, wonderful job, but I don't want it as is. I want it with the corrections, which we've already talked about.
The next one, though.
Yeah.
That's the next one. We're giving this the council minutes.
This is the council member. Oh, sorry.
I went too far. They all look the same to me.
Yes, you did go too far. You're going too far, absolutely.
That's it, I'm leaving. Try to run it without me.
That's what the bylaws are. said anything. All those in favor? Carried. Opposed? None? Now, 3A2, special meeting of council minutes, February 19th, 2016, page 27 of your agenda. Do I have a motion?
Go ahead, make the motion to accept it with the changes that you want changed.
What she said. Does that count?
Okay. I know what needs to be changed.
Yes. No, just, I move that council accept the minutes of the special meeting as presented with any editorial corrections. Or how does it sound? Is that okay?
It's up
I didn't
you.
want to say spelling errors. Okay. I just
Do you need the exact, what he, the
I know.
exact ones that he's talking about?
No, I know which one it is.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Councillor Gilroy's picked on everybody here, and they're spelling clerical. Any further discussions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. Opposed? None? We're good. And then on to 5A, Finance, Utility Bylaw, page 33 of the package, and then the Fees Bylaw, which is page 41. And now, sir, you have the floor. Please introduce yourself.
And the reason for the cup is in case somebody tries to leave the table before the bylaws are read. I can throw it like a football.
Sorry. Before we go any further, do we have a motion to allow this fine gentleman to speak?
Thank you,
Seeing
Councilor.
none, let's go.
I'm not touching it.
I make a motion to adopt the following resolutions related to bylaw 4-2016, that the fees bylaw, that council provides first reading to bylaw 4-2016, the utilities bylaw.
You now have the floor.
Thank you. So basically, I'll keep it short on this one. The utilities bylaw, we've discussed it before when we were talking about the policies for putting away reserves, etc. So this is putting the bylaw into place, putting those things in there. Also, it's removing the actual rates from the utility bylaw, and they'll be going into the next bylaw coming up, the fees bylaw, so that when we do somewhere down the road, look at our fees, we only look for one spot. We don't have to keep referring back and forth. So the utility bylaw, as you see written in front of you, it's the fee is as per the fees bylaw. Any questions on anything in there? It's fairly straightforward. There wasn't much changed in the format of the content of the bylaw. It was just removing the numbers.
No questions? Okay. We have a motion on the floor that's for the first reading. Now we'll have to vote on that, and then if we go on to second reading, and then if it's unanimous, third reading. Okay? So, that council provide first reading of the bylaw, 42016 utilities bylaw. All those in favor? Do I have a motion for second reading? Anybody? You're good with that.
I make a motion that council provide second reading to bylaw 4-2016, the utilities bylaw.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And do we want to take this to a third reading? Counselor Danaka, one more time.
The council proceed to third reading of bylaw 4-2016, the utilities bylaw, and if authorization to proceed to third reading receives unanimous consent, that council provide third reading to bylaw 4-2016, the utilities bylaw.
Excuse me. I just want to clarify on that we need two separate motions for that. They
Okay.
require a separate one for the going to third reading. The reason being, for council's information, is should you not get unanimous approval to go to third reading, basically, you put them to combine them, you defeat the bylaw. So this way, you're only going for right now to go to third reading.
Okay, so
Sorry.
I'll rescind my motion and make a new motion that council proceed to third reading of bylaw 4-2016, the utilities bylaw.
Perfect. Discussions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Unanimous. Who would like to make a motion on this one?
I've already stuck my foot in my mouth enough.
Yeah, oh no.
You're very good at it. I think it's chairman. Of the committee.
Councilor Net. She's on a roll.
If authorization to proceed to third reading receives unanimous consent, that council provide third reading to bylaw 4-2016, the utilities bylaw.
Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. One down.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And on to the fees bylaw, which is page 41, which will have the amendments and the changes that will be required for the change from the utility bylaw, I'm assuming.
It has that, and it also has the rates that we were talking about when we put through the amounts in there for reserves, for the sewer, the water, the gas. So the rates are in there. In the bylaw itself, I did highlight the changes in this one, just that it's to draw to the council's attention exactly what was being changed. So where new wording was added in, it was highlighted in yellow, and where wording was struck out or changed, it's been a strikeout, and you can see where the change has gone to it. Just so that council is aware that I'm not trying to sneak one in, but I did want to get a housekeeping matter looked after also. And it is on page 14 of the bylaw, or page 56 of your package, and it deals with administrative services. As for photocopies, originally it had both the black and white and color copy in there incorrectly at the same amount. So it's correcting the color amount to 50 cents a page on a color photocopy. So I'm not trying to sneak this through. I just want to make sure the council's aware. Other than that, the rest of the changes are related to utilities.
Before we go further, we need to bring this one forward as well. So do I have somebody who wishes to make a motion? Recommended actions.
I just have a question.
Motion, oh,
I just have a question. Is it best to
not for this one.
make, to go through this? And the reason I'm asking, because in talking to the fire chief, the rates for the units are wrong. So is it best to pass it or send it back to administration and get them to come back with the proper fee schedule for it?
At this time, we'd like to see this passed. We do know there's some other changes, including there were changes, it's not that they were wrong, but there were some changes to provincial rates
Right.
that need to be incorporated.
Yes.
Also, there's some changes that Bylaw Services has looked at for the animal fees. So when you look at, there's actually 7 recommended resolutions for this. And one of those is to take this back, take the penalties out of this bylaw, and then also to coordinate with the other holders of the other bylaws, take the rates out of theirs, leave strictly the penalties in theirs, and then bring back the corrected rates in here at a future date.
Okay.
So if we could just deal with the utilities on this one, the utility changes that are highlighted in this. The bylaw's already been typed up and ready for signature. And then we'll get the other one through with the other changes that are still required. Did we get a motion for first reading? I'm sorry. No, I went too fast out of the check.
That was I wanted my question, to answer my question if it would be better not to do it that way.
Anybody?
The council provide first reading to bylaw 1-2016, the fees bylaw.
Okay, if it's okay now, I'll carry on talking. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
I might figure this out before I leave. Okay, so as I stated, I have got 7 recommendations in there, so the recommended action, it's in quotation marks, so it's fairly simple to follow through on. So as we talked about, there were some changes from the utility rates, also some things that we want to do We want to get only the fees, the cost for permits and inspections of that into this bylaw in the future and get rid of the penalty phases of it. So that if somebody's dealing with, let's say, traffic bylaw, if they're looking at an infraction, the penalties are contained in that bylaw. If there's a fee for a dog license, it's contained in here. So the idea being is somewhere down the road, and that's one of the recommendations also, is once this thing's all buttoned down and clean, is at the first meeting in September, the bylaw is brought before council as part of the budget process with a review of all the rates, so that we can take a look at and have changes recommended for the 1st of January the following year. So that would take effect for, let's say, new prices for dog licenses, new business licenses, etc. And they would take effect when they're needed to be. Rather than try to do it in the middle of a year. Okay. Any other questions?
Seeing none, all questions, the council provide first reading bylaw 12016, new bylaw. All those in favor? Carried, unanimous. Do we have a motion for the second reading?
The council provides second reading to bylaw 1-2016, the fee bylaw.
Discussions? Seeing none, well read. All those in favor?
And I snorted.
And you think I'm bad.
And do we have a consensus for a third reading? Anybody want to call that one?
Might as well again. The council proceed to third reading of bylaw 1-2016, the fee bylaw.
Discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And Councillor Danak.
If authorization to proceed to third reading receives unanimous consent, that council provide third reading to bylaw 1-2016, the fee bylaw.
Discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And then you have 5, 6, and 7 that you want us to go at.
Yes, please. They're a little more wordy here. Sorry about this.
Okay. Councillor Danak.
The council direct administration that during the next amendment to bylaw 1-2016, the fee bylaw, that all references related to specified penalties, offenses and penalties or offenses be removed, and that those items be retained in their originating bylaws.
Discussion. Do you understand what they're trying to do? Yeah. Okay. Seeing none. Clean it up. All those in favor? Carried. And who wants to take a stab at number 6? Councillor Gilroy?
Arlen's mic's on.
My mic's still on? All right, fine. The council direct administration that during future amendments to bylaw 1-2016, the fee bylaw, that all references related to permits or inspections, the sale of goods or services, rents, or other like items be accompanied by amendments to the source bylaws so that the actual cost for those items may be removed and replaced by references to bylaw 1-2016, the fee bylaw, and. Do we not have to continue the motion?
The and is the next one.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's there, I read it.
It's not in the quotation marks.
You're right, it's not in the quotation marks, you're correct. You're correct for that.
Discussions. Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And number 7, last but not least, Councillor Gilroy, take a stab at that one.
Is this executive privilege?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't realize executive privilege was in there. Okay. That council direct administration to bring back bylaw 1-2016, the fee bylaw, no later than the first scheduled regular council meeting each September, with recommendations for change that would take effect January 1st of the following year, or a date that would be date that would be determined by council. I'm sitting beside you.
Discussions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. And you're welcome, sir. Thank you for the hard work of moving numbers over. As long as you didn't break a bead of sweat, we're good. And next one up is going to be 5B, the administration, which terms of reference of the sesquicentennial, which is on page 59 of your agenda. And this is to go back to getting terms of reference and for these different organizations and committees so that we can actually sit on them.
This bylaw was approved by council previously, but with one member as a member at large, as an alternate. That's why it was changed and brought back to council for approval.
Yes. And recommended action, yes. Councillor Tanaka.
Council accepts and approves the changes of adding the alternates to the sesquicentennial committee terms of reference.
Discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Tanaka, are you gonna vote one way or the other?
What?
All those in favor? That girl.
Oh,
There
we
we
voted
go.
on that already.
Motion, light years. Yeah. Motion carried. And the next one is for the terms of reference for the Community Education Committee, page 68, which is a new committee. Yes, Mr. CAO, sir, you.
Just to let council know that we had no terms of reference for this committee approved by council. So we contacted what was the name of the gentleman, Nancy?
I don't remember.
Okay, anyways. They provided us with the terms of reference to be approved by council.
Perfect. Councilor Tanaka.
The council approved the Community Education Committee terms of reference.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And the procedural bylaw, 5B3. Page 71 of the package. Councillor Quartley. Or? Well, I heard you go, so. Councillor Tanaka, you have your mic on. Away you go. How do you want to read this one out?
The council received the changes to the procedural bylaw 07-2014 for information, and I will explain why. And my reasoning is that, being that this is a procedural bylaw that designates how council will function, I think it should be a discussion when all councillors are present. So I'm thinking we should probably postpone this to the next upcoming meeting, because, I mean, we may be one short, but most of the councillors will be present.
Correct, yeah. Do we have any further discussion on that?
I'd agree with Councillor Tanaka only because I also received the text from Councillor Rose, and she wanted to be here for this, as she felt very strongly about it. And not knowing the full context of this myself, I don't think it's a fair evaluation unless the rest of the council is here.
Part of your motion is to bring back to the future.
Okay. It's recommended that council direct administration to bring the changes to the procedural bylaw to the next upcoming council meeting.
get that? Do you need that read back? No? We're good?
It's basically two motions in one then,
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
because you didn't vote on the first one.
Right.
It was just amending your first motion, did you have to rescind it and reread it?
We can receive it for information and bring back.
Because
Oh.
the initial motion was to receive
For information.
Just
So,
like that.
You're gonna vote on that.
so we'll vote on that and then we'll vote for your,
For the second one that I made, that
Correct.
council direct.
Do the first one first.
Yep.
and then-
Yes, do the first one
I'll explain that
first.
so to receive for information, all those in favor? Great. And then your second motion, which was to bring it back for the next meeting.
Council directs administration to bring back the procedural bylaw to the next upcoming council meeting.
Well done. All those in favor? Carried. And the next coming up, we've got the CAO report, the action list, the checklisting, binding agreements, the FCC, SS events. I'm gonna call for a 5-minute recess, if we can.
Did you have the gavel, you can.
Actually, any one of us can